Well, Walker, welcome to the Farm Traveler Podcast, man. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me today.
All right, you're with Force of Nature Meats, and yeah, like I said earlier, I've been trying to get you guys on, and you guys were super kind enough to send me like a little care package. I got some beef patties, ground beef, ground venison, and then like a primal blend with like ground beef and heart and stuff, which I'm very
Yeah,
excited for. So thank you for that. I'm going to do some cooking videos with them very soon.
you're very welcome. Let us know how what you like there. Yeah, the ancestral blend there, that liver and heart one's kind of our number one product there. That's kind of what we're known for. So let us know what you think of those. We're always welcome to feedback, even if it's not things that we need to work on. So
Nice. Yeah, I'll try. I tried it from another brand years ago. It was an ancestral blend. It had like heart and
yeah.
liver, I think. And I'd never had that before, but it tasted great and it tasted like sweeter than normal ground beef. So I'm excited to see how y'all's is different. So yeah, you're with Force of Nature. You guys are kind of focused on regenerative agriculture, but give us the whole background on what Force of Nature is.
Yeah, so it was started back in 2019 by Robbie Sansom and Katie and Taylor, those three, who
Mhm.
had started Epic before. So Epic was kind of their first foray into
Oh.
regenerative agriculture and the meat bar shelf stable products there, and that's really where they broke into the scene and made a lot of noise kind of in the regenerative space there. Got really distribution to a lot of different retailers with that product, and obviously it's still in stores these days and still a product that a lot of people like to buy. I think when they decided that they'd really done what they could with that company and they decided to move on, I think they felt like they really hadn't done everything they felt like they could do in the regenerative space. I feel like what they talk about is when they started Force of Nature, they felt like they were going to be able to make an impact on instead of ounces with like in terms of meat, like ounces of product versus pounds. And so at Force of
Mm.
Nature, they feel like they could do it in the pounds and the like as we continue to grow, like that number of pounds will make more of an impact on the amount of farmers and the amount of acres we work
That's cool.
with.
Yeah, I did not know that they had founded Epic because I first found them watching like a YouTube video of some hiker, and he brought Epic bars with him. I was like, let me try those. And so yeah, they're like you wouldn't qualify those as beef jerky. Like, how exactly would you kind of describe it?
It's I don't think I have a good. I feel like I'd make it sound grosser than they are by describing them. But yeah, it's not like jerky. I would describe as drier, and like the bars are a little bit like they're just more palatable because they're not like you're not like having to
Yeah.
chew them a whole lot. They have better flavors. Jerky's usually, I mean, they're smoked in some way and have like a little bit of flavor on top. But like these bars are mixed with whether it's, I mean, salt and pepper or fruit or other things, bacon. Like there's things inside that give it different kind of flavors. So definitely across the board, like the venison, bison bar is I think the kind of overall favorite across the
Yeah,
board
the
there.
bison bar is good. I think that one or another one is mixed with maple or something, and it's really good.
Yes, you're right. I couldn't tell you which one exactly. I know the bison one is cranberry and something in there.
Mm.
That one's super good. So yeah.
Nice. So, how did they go about starting Force of Nature? Like, how did they start working with farmers that are kind of going more regenerative? Did they have those partnerships with Epic, or did they kind of have to start from scratch?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mix of that, Trevor. There, I think it's like they were able to bring on like some of the people they worked with, say in like the venison space, they kind of just transferred that over
Mm.
as they started with the ground brick and then eventually the ground venison ancestral. They were able to use the same venison partners that they have there, and then the bison as well was like I think a mix of some of the same. Not like it wasn't instant carryover. Obviously, General Mills continued to work with a lot of the suppliers there, and they had their supply. So they did have to start over in some realms, but Southwest Bison was one of the original partners there out of Texas as well that they partnered with on the original bricks. And it was a small group there. I mean, they tell you that like they were working out of a small building trying to just like any kind of startup, just trying to make it happen. They were excited when
Mm.
they got their first bricks made, and they were like taking them to stores to just give out as samples. And in Austin, just trying to pound on doors. I mean, that's kind of how it was, like grassroots there out of the start to try to get it going. And I was slow going out of the gate, and COVID happened pretty quickly after that. After they got started, so that was hard for them as well to really get it rolling.
Okay, so they started it right before the pandemic happened.
Exactly. Yeah. So they'd gotten their sea legs a little bit and started to get a little bit of traction. And then that, like a lot of like all food service business went away.
Mm.
Obviously, retail business was kind of the flip where they wanted everything they could get, and it was really hard to keep up, and you couldn't. And so it was a tough time there.
So did they pivot? Like, was their plan to be online, or did they kind of pivot during the pandemic?
I couldn't tell you exactly then. So I joined about 2 years ago.
Okay.
I joined about December of 22. I think that the plan was always to be a mixture of e-com, food service, retail, with retail being the major presence for us these days. But we are continuing to try to further our e-com presence and make that like even more of a better experience for people to shop online. So we've always wanted to be a mix of that. Food services continues to be like always a hard one to deal with. It's just a hard area to break into and make
Yeah.
sure that you're like, if when you're a branded company, you want to be able to share your story. And so you got to have chefs that are willing to put your name on the menu and talk about you guys and not just buy your product and then move on. So because we're really story oriented, marketing oriented company, we always want to be branded and telling our story.
Yeah, what's that story? I really like what you guys are doing, and I kind of compare like the online meat scene to vertical farming, where like a bunch of different companies are doing it differently, and they're really going all in on what their unique story is and what their exact process is. So, like, what is the story behind you guys?
Yeah, I think that there's probably multiple stories there, but I'd say that like our main model is that like we're working with regenerative farmers in multiple spaces all across the world. We like to focus on stuff that is domestic in U.S., but also we'd like to recognize that regenerative agriculture is a worldwide community, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone like there's not it's not just happening in the United States. We always like to support here in the United States. And so we work with farmers on multiple different levels, whether it's companies that want to sell box products, whether it's box bison or box beef, and work them on that side where we take that and process it and turn it into our great, like the products that you see online, the grinds. And then from there, I mean, really out of the gate, it was really grind focused, and we're still a really like
Mm-hmm.
grind focused company. So like, I mean, ground beef and ground beef ancestral, and like ground pork and ground chicken and ground venison and ground bison. And so really breaking into that space because at if you talk with anybody kind of in the meat business, the toughest thing to do to sell is the trim. There's so much meat and trim that comes off that goes into the grind. That's kind of the term to use in that realm is that you have so much weight off of each animal to sell of that like it's always what kind of piles up for every meat company and so like that was kind of the easiest way to break in was like working with these guys that were doing great work on the land and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like how can we as a company of Force Nature be helpful to these companies? What can we provide to them as a way of helping them? So that was buying their grind and turn it into bricks. And I mean, grind is something that like is very versatile as a product. People can buy bison or beef, and you can make 1,000 different things with it. So it works out from that angle because everybody always needs it. It's not a specialized product that you really have to sell to people. People want to buy ground venison or ground bison, and it's not like you have to really convince them.
Yeah. So what is that term bricks? Like, what is that signifying for you guys?
So it's going to be usually a pound, like 16 ounces for beef, and for venison and for bison, it's going to be 14 ounces, and it's going to be on the
Mm.
shelf now. We've worked a lot on our quality over the years, and we're a very like square brick that you'll see on the shelf. In certain stores these days, it could be fresh with HEB or some other stores on the East Coast. Like we could be fresh for beef, and that you'll see that in the fresh section. But we've been mostly frozen in the
Mm.
frozen section over the years. That's what the main volume is. But either way, it's still going to be a square brick with a label on the front and back. And I mean, if it's ground bison or ancestral, it'll have that claim on the front. And yeah, it's 14 or 16 ounces, depending on the protein.
Nice. Okay, so I'm a huge fan of ground bison. My father-in-law is a big hunter here. I'm here in Florida. He goes hunting around Troy, Alabama. At a friend of
Okay.
his is hunting land. He'll go and he'll get does. He hasn't shot a buck in a couple of years. I'm not trying to out him or anything. But yeah, big fan of ground venison. We've got like some maple sausage. We've got Cajun, which is really good. And of course, I know with venison, you've got to grind it with an additional fat source, like with hogs or whatever. What do you guys do in that sense?
So all of that is going to be beef, and that's kind of
Mm,
like a U.S. like kind of federal law, as I kind of understand it, is that like there has to be some kind of like mixture extra in there. Obviously, it's super lean on its own. So you kind of want probably a little extra fat in there to
Oh
like
yeah.
make it taste a little bit better. So for us, we put a little bit of like the 50, we call it 50/50 trim. So it's like fat trim for beef because those are usually the animals where you can get fattier stuff from. So we don't do, we're kind of getting back into pork now this year. We're going to looking to launch it later this year again, kind of relaunch it. We were in pork in the beginning. But we may decide to use some pork in other products, but it's mainly going to probably just be one item there. So venison and elk and those things, those are going to have beef fat mixed in as a kind of the part of the rule, but also it generally probably makes it taste a little bit better.
Gotcha. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I wondered about that because I know like venison is very lean and so you've got to add some sort of fat in there. And I've always wondered how it works on like a larger scale. Because of course you go to a meat processor like with your own deer, you can get them to put whatever you want in it. So I was
Right.
curious about how it works on like a, very big, large industrial scale.
Yeah, I mean, luckily now that we're like, as I mentioned before, we buy a lot of box beef from people, but now we've transitioned into in that model. But also, a part of my role has been coming on and doing whole animal processing. So on the
Mm.
bison side, we buy a lot of whole bison from a lot of our suppliers, and we will take those and buy them on the rail. And so we're buying the whole animal, and we're taking the whole carcass, and we're gonna sell the steaks, we're gonna sell the trim, we're gonna use the organs for the grind, and so we're gonna use the whole animal there. So not boxed really anymore. It's the whole, and we do that with beef as well now. So doing that for both
Nice.
of those. So having those programs means that we're going to have 50 trim and other things like that to be able to use on a larger scale with things like venison. And we now with the models we have to plan out what we need, we can plan out like how much we need for a product like that for venison and to mix it into those products.
Has there been kind of a huge growth and interest on like organ meat or really just like using all of the animal? Because I feel like not to name drop him at all, but I know the Liver King kind of exploded
Yes.
years ago, and then he was kind of with that movement, like, hey, eat more organs, eat more
Yeah.
like ground meat with organs because there's a lot of vitamins and nutrients in it. So have you
Yeah.
guys seen like a huge growth with a want towards that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't here early on, and like this is one of the things I think is the coolest thing about like what Robbie and Katie and Taylor have started with this company
Hmm.
is, and I couldn't tell you exactly when the Liver King and other people started. I know people started talking about it, but in terms of like starting a company and creating one of their flagship products as like Beef Ancestral, like we did at Force of Nature, like in 2019. I think it really started that trend. I had never seen it before, and like I was in the beef industry before starting at Force of Nature. I'd
Hmm.
never seen the product. I know people had talked about it, but no one really considered grinding it into a brick and making it something that's more palatable for people that like. Because I'd heard that before 2019 that organs were good for you. Well, great. Well, like frying up liver with onions sounds disgusting. So
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, like you got to figure out a better way, and these guys did. And I mean, Beef Ancestral is by far our number one selling product, and so I think that speaks to like how people kind of embrace that product over time. And then you can see, I mean, I was at a company before before Force of Nature that decided to make the same. They obviously called it something else, but they decided to make an organ blend. And I mean, I have to believe that there was really in part because of the success of Force of Nature with that product. And I know many companies now that have really gotten into it. So again, I don't want to toot our horn too much in that, but I think that's really one of the biggest movements that this company has started is like this kind of product because they've seen the success that it's had with people and how it's used up the carcass, which allows you to get more value for it and like pass
Mm.
that down to the farmer. But also, yes, from the health side as well, it's awesome in terms of like when you just break it down to all the different micronutrients and different things that you can get. Just and then on a big scale with like liver, like the amount of iron that you can get from just like 2 ounces of iron. I think it's like 200% of your daily iron intake just from that.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. Like instead of having people, shift how they eat, like, oh, you need to eat more liver, you need to eat more like ground heart or whatever. Like incorporating it into ground meat is such a good idea because they're already eating ground meat, they're eating burgers, chili, whatever. And
Exactly.
so if you just literally combine those products, they have to do no extra work. And you guys, not only you guys can profit off of it when you make a great product, but also like the farmer can get paid more because usually like I would say maybe 10, 15 years ago, like those products weren't really being used that whole lot. Like
No,
maybe
they
they
were
were
going
being
to they were going to dog food
yeah,
essentially is what it
exactly,
was
exactly.
before.
Yeah.
And so it was getting used, but it wasn't like a high value item. And so like yeah, one of the coolest things about beef in general for a long time is like you can look at the chart of like how many like 1,000 items that can be made out of just like a beef, so like a beef animal. So it's great. Like people think that there's a lot of waste that comes out of it, but like it's really cool like how many different items you can make or just have from beef. And then like as we continue to figure out how we as humans can eat these different things and make it more palatable, that it's just cool to see that.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that, have you ever tried beef tongue?
I have, yes.
It's good. It's good, isn't it?
It is. It's one of those things. Just like when you talk about liver and heart by themselves, it's you got to have a good recipe. Like I used to work farmers markets where you're selling whole hearts or you're selling like a tongue that looks pretty gnarly in a package, and you're like, you sure you want this? And they're like, oh yeah, like oh like how do you do? Like I'm like, well, how do you cook it? And they start going like, oh yeah, you boil it and peel it and do this. And you're like, by the end, you're like, that actually sounds pretty good. Like you can't imagine it in your mind until you hear that recipe and what they're talking about. But it's really cool to just like get people that like, oh, their whole family, oh, this is how I make heart and all this. You're like, okay, I can maybe get with that.
Oh yeah. I had on a rancher about a year and a half ago, and she sent me 2 beef tongues, and I cooked one of them. And I was cooking, I was like, I don't know about this, but I had it in as a taco, and I think it's called like tacos de lengua, and it's actually really good. Like you got to get past the, you're cooking a tongue. You eat it, you're like, this is actually really good for a taco. She also sent me a big old beef heart that I've got to cook. I'm gonna try to make steaks out of that or something. But yeah, I mean, you kind of have to get past it and try to find a good recipe, and then you'll be like, yeah, this is actually like a repeat recipe. I'm gonna go back and do it.
Exactly.
That's so fun. So, when you guys are working with farmers, like I know you guys are kind of regenerative based. Like, what was the whole thought process about that? About trying to work with farmers that kind of do that production method?
Well, I mean, we really think, I mean, it's part of our whole mission here is that people that are regenerative are kind of moving away from that conventional agriculture system that we really feel like is hurting the food system and like causing people to be less healthy in the United States and even like around the world. But if we really think about the United States and all the different issues that we deal with health, it really boils down to like what we are consuming and like the foods that we're consuming. And so core to that. And so that's a part of the reason why they wanted to start the company. It's that like they saw what they were doing with Epic and they felt like they could further it more as like people like empowering the farmers that are already doing this on the ground. And then like, okay, you show the model that like this can work. This can work with these farmers, like get them to be ramping up what they're doing and get more people excited and then like have the movement kind of grow from there. And that's really the whole idea behind it. And then when you really break down regenerative into its pieces, I mean, it's really just about taking that piece of land and how you're managing it, whether it's with a certain species or with multi-species or whatever you're doing on the land, looking to improve that over time, whether it's like the water holding capacity or the soil or the wildlife or the water quality. There's so many things that come out of that are great for the land, but then filter down to the human health aspect as well.
So what does it look like on the farm? Like, can you give us any examples of like what's going on at the farm as a farmer is doing all those regenerative practices?
Yeah, I mean, I think a great example, like just of one of our partners and what they do, is Turner Enterprises and at 10 Turner and their kind of bison operation. If you haven't heard about it, but like what he's done and what they've done for bison in the like the American West is an incredible story. And even what they were doing before we were partnered with them, they were kind of interested in regenerative practices. They were like exploring it, and so it wasn't like we started the whole movement with them, but they were doing kind of grain-fed bison before we started, and then we started working with their cull cows, their older animals that were grass-fed and regenerative there, and we really started there and kind of worked from there. And it was just a few hundred head a year, and just for the scale of it, they're on 12 ranches spanning probably 2 million acres in the American West there. Wow. And so if you can imagine in areas that are very wild that like we're supposed to have bison on them historically, they have bison on them again. They're running these massive herds that are running together and they're grazing these pastures. They're moving often through, whether it's one day or a week. It's very like thoughtful in why they're grazing a certain area for a certain amount of time. It may be something oriented to like wildlife, like why you move, or it's winter and they need to have a bigger space and like let them express their natural behaviors and everything there. So. I mean, there are so many different ways you can define like what a regenerative system looks like there, but on so many acres there across 2 million and what they're doing, you can talk about soil and how they're improving, and you can take soil samples But we have a video online now on YouTube of like what
Hmm.
of our partnership with them and what it looks like of like rewilding like out there and like I mean just being able to see like having bison coexist in Montana with grizzly bears and wolves and mountain lions and at the same time you're producing this product that's delicious and healthy for you that and so those things are totally entangled together. So that's one story there of like just one example and story of like we started with them and now they're like their system is now half grass fed, half grain fed, and like we are up to like somewhere around 3,500 animals that we source from them per year
Oh
on
wow.
on that. And so that is they are our biggest bison partner, and they do incredible work in the space there on bison. And like if you haven't seen the video on YouTube, like it is a great watch there to see just like what they're trying to do out there and what how much pride they take in it and like how much we really enjoy the partnership with them and like this what has happened over like just the 4 years that we worked together and what has changed and what has improved out there is just truly incredible.
That's awesome. I'll go watch that video and I'll add it in the description of this episode so everybody can see it. I love learning about bison because when you look at that, that's just it's such a North American thing that happened hundreds of years ago. Just normal bison, just grazing the plains, and now it's slowly coming back, which I think is awesome. And I think it's really, I don't like. I would be curious to know like how much of the of bison meat has been kind of like slowly overtaking beef, you know, like people are slowly replacing beef with some bison that they might eat every now and then. I think that'd be kind of cool. I need to do some more research on that. I think that would.
Yeah,
You
you
think?
know, I mean, it's a tough comparison because
Yeah, yeah.
when you think about just the herd size themselves, like there are 30 million beef animals in the United States, and the herd between U.S. and Canada in bison is about 300,000 total.
Mm.
And so, actually, I'll correct it on beef. There are 30 million beef processed every year in the United States. That's
Mm.
not even the whole herd size. That is processed. And so on bison, there are about 100,000 overall processed of that 300,000. So you can just there's just not even a comparable number there, and that's amount that's available. So I think that the problem with bison historically is that I mean, people think about it, it's a leaner meat, and like okay, people think a leaner, okay, that's better for me. We've been trying to break that kind of notion, like more fat is actually better for you. Like it's not, but not that bison is not. It's just
Hmm.
that like having fat in your diet is a good thing for your health. But if people would like a leaner meat like bison, go for it. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to that. There's just not nearly as much available, but I've heard stories of people that have decided to switch away from beef and do bison. If you have a good source of it and you can get what you need for that purpose, power to you. I mean, there just may not be as many options all across the country if you're in a smaller town and you may not have access to it. So it may be like if you're in a bigger city and you have access to more different types of grocery stores, then you're more likely maybe to eat bison. Obviously, if you're out in an area where you can get it from your neighbors, great. But if you're in an area that's not like related to bison ranches, you might struggle to really get that into your diet if it's something that you want to.
Oh yeah, I think it's fun to learn that there's more than like the big three: beef, chicken, and pork. I mean, there's bison, there's elk, there's venison, there's what
You
is
got
it? Yeah,
wild boar that we have as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah, wild boar. And I interviewed a guy from American Ostrich Farms, and they are trying to get ostrich to be like a new super meat, which is really cool. And I tried it, and it tastes really good. Like it doesn't taste weird at all. It tastes like kind of like beef a little bit. So there's so many more options out there if consumers, just look a little bit for it.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a restaurant somewhere in San Diego one time where I had never heard of it, but I went and I looked at the menu and it was like ostrich and alligator and wild bull. There was probably 20 different species of animals. I'm like, I don't even know how did they even get all this. And so, I mean, there's things from around the world. I've visited Australia where some of our beef suppliers are, and you just see kangaroos running across the property, and you point them out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're everywhere." Like, are you interested in kangaroo meat? I'm like, I don't think so, but like, I would try it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say like never say never.
Yeah, there's a restaurant here in Panama City where I'm at, and I think there's a kangaroo burger on the menu, and I can't remember if I've tried it or not, but apparently it's like one of their big sellers there, which you wouldn't think that that would be good, but clearly there's a market for it.
Yeah, sometimes with products like that, it's like you like with reviews these days, like a few people try it, it ends up they did a good job with it, and people leave good reviews, and more people try it, and it can kind of catch fire in that realm. I mean, there's probably no other reason why it would catch on is that a few people tried it and kind of went from there. But it's great. I mean, you have a lot of things like kangaroos and deer and things when you're thinking about more from a wildlife angle and trying to
Hmm.
control the population and like, great, can you control the population and in those senses, but also then like use it as a product. Same with like wild boar. Wild boar are really destructive to the areas in like Texas, and so that we source them from, and it's great. Like we can get rid of a nuisance, but while also turning into delicious products that are also good for you.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the boar, like how you guys source that. Like, is it wild boar or like how does that all work? So yeah, like how
Yeah,
does the boar process work for you guys?
yeah, it's truly wild boar, and so we work with multiple plants out in Texas on this. And so what happens is that ranches in Texas, no matter what whether they're beef or whatever kind of ranch, like they're gonna if they have a wild boar problem, they're gonna call some kind of trapper out there. They're gonna get
Mhm.
someone to trap the hogs there, and they're gonna put out some kind of trap that just like lures them in, and then they can bring them to then a processing plant from there that will buy them from them and then process them, and then we work with those processing plants then from them to buy that kind of trim that I referred to before. So there's different kind of lean points of trim. What sometimes it's fatty or sometimes it's a little bit leaner, and we buy both of those. And we have three products in wild boar: our ground wild boar brick, that's just kind of the 85-15 trim, and then we have our sausage, the ready to eat link sausage. That's great, but my favorite is the wild boar chorizo that uses the fattier trim there. I'm a big fan of chorizo, but this product, like, it has that wild boar flavor, but also those spices. If you haven't tried it, like cooking up chorizo with like eggs and like for like breakfast tacos, it's to die for.
That sounds
Uh,
really good. I'm gonna have to try that.
yeah, I mean, people have never heard of it, and like just a side note, like here, I live out in Asheville, North Carolina. We had a hurricane
Hmm.
earlier this year, and
Oh yeah.
like the day after when we had no power, and we're all like the whole neighborhood's trying to get together and figure out, like, we cooked a big breakfast just out on the street with like propane and like a big griddle, and I had like 3 pounds of it in my freezer. I just thawed it out the night before, brought it out. No one had ever heard of it, and people were skeptical. And then like everybody ate it, and they're like, "Where the heck can I buy this? Like, this is awesome." And so like everybody on my street has like been like, okay, where can I go? Seriously, where can I go get this? And it's really cool just to have different things like that.
And I mean, wild boar are they're such a nuisance all around the country. And that's awesome that
Yeah.
you guys are making a really great product directly from that. I mean, it's not only like hurting wildlife in general, it's hurting farms, but I mean,
Right.
yeah, they're a huge nuisance. I mean, like thinking of Texas, like you see so many videos of I don't know what you would call them, but like you can literally go on hunting expeditions where you can have a minigun shooting wild boar out of a helicopter because that's how
Yeah.
bad they are.
Yeah, it's really impossible, even with all that hunting and even with people eating it. It's just really like, unless it became as popular as beef, it still has that stronger flavor. It's never going to be a product that everybody
Mm.
like enjoys. And so like that if you had that demand, maybe you could get like people to be processing even more of it. It's still going to continue to be a niche product, but it's still great to have ways to try to control them that way. I mean, there are multiple routes that people go to just try to eliminate them, and there's creative ways to go about it, like turning them into products like that we sell.
Okay, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but have you guys looked into iguanas in South Florida at all?
Like processing them into products.
Yeah, like potentially.
I could say that we haven't, but we do have an awesome sales girl on our team that lives in the Panhandle of Florida,
Oh,
and
cool.
she's done things with gators and other nuisances in that area. Maybe she's thought about it. Maybe she has a suggestion around iguanas. I don't think we've discussed it as a company, but there's so many different route like things like that you could probably think of that to go down a path. And these days, I mean, we're trying to make the biggest impact that we can. And wild boar is something that we kind of started with from the beginning, and we'd
Mhm.
like to continue to go it. But if you go on our website, you can see like there's 40, 50 plus SKUs on there. And so there's a lot to manage for our company. And we always want to be conscious of like, okay, what products do we have online? What do we only have a certain amount of people in a certain amount of time? We got to like make sure that the products on there are the biggest bang for their buck and that people enjoy them and everything there. So it doesn't mean we can't do something like that, but we always just kind of have that mindset as to make sure that we're on the right track with a certain product.
Oh no, 100%. Yeah. So I asked that. My uncle lives in South Florida, and he's always talking about just the nuisance that they are. And I think they just did something where like you can actually go out and get them and they'll pay you, I think, or something like that. And so they're trying to get they're trying to get them like controlled because they are just so invasive. And he's heard stories about people going out and cooking them, and I don't know what you call it, but it's apparently really good. Like it's a good Cuban or Latin dish.
Oh, I
So yeah,
bet. It
but
goes
yeah,
through that
yeah.
same thing with like the heart and liver and the
Oh yeah.
tongue and things like you can always find someone. I mean, yeah, the other tangent to that is I had it like you can always find things like in Florida that are a little bit maybe like off like that. I had a friend who in high school when or in college when he was in college they were like advertising to come down to Florida to like hunt pythons because they were such a problem down there.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
this guy decided to get a group of people and had never done something like this. And they were like, we're going to go down there and hunt pythons. And they like just showed up randomly at like this Everglades area with fan boats. And we're like, we're ready. We're here. And they're like, are you insane? Like, do you even know what you're getting into? They're like, no, what are you talking about? Like, these things are going to eat you alive. And they're like, maybe this wasn't the smartest idea.
Maybe not the best idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, parts of Florida, it's a little bit like Jurassic Park. You've got the pythons down there. Again, I'm here in North Florida. There's Apalachicola River, which comes south from Atlanta. And I think a few years ago, a guy in my hometown, he caught, I think, a 24 or 25-foot alligator, and it was a state record. And that thing was massive. It looked
Oh, yeah.
like a dinosaur. Like, there's just so many different kinds of wildlife
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got to be on the lookout for. So, yeah, Florida's a great time. But, yeah, we've got a lot of weird stuff. So, yeah, speaking of, well, real quick, like, how is everything post-hurricane up there in Asheville?
It's still a slow process. I mean, I
Really?
think people are bouncing back, and late last year it started to get back to like a more of a normalcy. I mean, up here we were without like potable water for like 3 months, and that was kind of a hard time because you're having to either boil water or just use like bottled water and stuff like that. And so it was a hard time. I mean, like I hadn't personally been through things like that, but also the flip side is, I mean, it brings your community closer together. I mean, we were all chainsawing together and having breakfasts and dinners together just to kind of get through it. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where I mean, it brings the neighborhoods together, but you look around the rest of the town, there is still tons of devastation. The town still needs a lot of help. They just don't have the help they need to be able to clean up and really just like I don't know, just really start the demo to really build
Yeah.
back up because a lot of businesses. I live here in Biltmore Forest, which is close to Biltmore Village. If anyone saw the
Hmm.
news footage, is of Biltmore Village with like under like 12 feet of water, and all those businesses are gone, and so they're looking to build it back up. But even just in surrounding areas like Swannanoa and other, they just need a lot of help. And so it's one of those things where you want to do as much as you can, but it's just kind of a little bit overwhelming as to like it's just too much to really for one person to like to help. So I'm always trying to think about what we can do to help here, but it's just you try to bring it down a little bit smaller to see what things you can impact.
Yeah, no, that's rough. And when did you guys get hit with it? September or October?
Yeah, it was late September when it came in. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I remember seeing videos of the floods and everything, and I mean, it was awful. I'm here in Panama City. We got hit with a Category 5 in 2018, Hurricane Michael, and it was the same thing. Like everybody's cutting trees down together, having food. Just it really does bring the community together. It sucks. It's awful, but one bright point is that kind of everybody's like, everything external doesn't matter. Like, let me go check on my neighbor and see how they're
yeah,
doing. Like that's literally all that matters in those times.
yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Well, I hope is the state and I guess kind of FEMA kind of doing a little bit more to kind of help you guys out.
We hope so. I'm not too involved in like news and what's going on exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there are areas you can drive around and you'll see like there are things like bridges going back up and things being demoed and like excavators out. And so you don't know if that's just like the city or if that's FEMA or something like that. Still think FEMA is out here and people are still trying to like get help from them.
Mhm.
So it's tough to know exactly what's going on with that. I think they're out here, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that people still need help. There's still. It was just like within one day. I mean, it was just everything was pretty much destroyed out here.
Yeah. Yeah, you might relate to this. It's so weird how the news cycle will focus so much on it and then like a week later, something else. Like
Right.
they'll just cover it for a week. Oh, look at what's happening in Asheville, look what's happening in the hurricane, then something else happens in Hawaii or in the Middle East and it just like totally pivots. And the struggle's still going on, but you guys are like, please don't forget about us. Like we're still here. You all knew about us a week ago. Please don't forget about us.
Yeah, and what's great here is that Hickory Nut Gap, which is one of our partners here that we work with a lot on, and they're a local producer group here that does a lot in the regenerative space, and they sell to Whole Foods, and they have a lot of business around here. But we also purchase from them. Their head farm, their main farm is here in Asheville. We actually had people out for an event during like that
Hmm.
hurricane there, and they barely got out in time, and so there was a big like GoFundMe for them as well. I mean, they do great work, and they're one of our like top partners here, and we're really proud to work with them. And they're just another great story of what they've done in the regenerative space and the success they've had, but also us partnering with them and how we can help each other kind of grow as we go into the future.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. It's a really beautiful area around Asheville, Biltmore. My grandparents have a cabin, I think like an hour and a half west of Asheville, and my wife and I we stayed there last year. We went to Asheville, had dinner, beautiful town. We went to the Biltmore, super beautiful. We went to some restaurant in downtown Asheville. I can't remember the name of it, but they had like farm fresh ingredients and farm fresh. I think pork. I can't remember what it was, but I wish I remembered the name of it. But it was a really good restaurant. The food was delicious.
Yeah, I mean, Asheville's even for a smaller town is known for its cuisine. I mean, I think there was at least two James Beard Award winning restaurants.
Oh, okay.
Last year, one of them I think was the one one of them was in Biltmore Village that got wrecked, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
Asheville on a whole, I mean, there's so much great food here. I mean, it has to do a lot with the local partners like around here that produce great food, and it's just obviously has to do like when you have partners like that, farmers doing these kind of regenerative things with whether it's with crops or like with produce or things like that or animals and across the board with lamb or pork or beef like that. I mean, because Hickory Nut Gap does pork as well, and it's delicious. I mean,
Hmm.
I go to a co-op here and I buy it, and it's my favorite bacon by far. So it's always great to have all these like intertwining like different farms, and that's how we feel about the network that we have here at Force of Nature with all the different like farms that we work with across multiple species like kind of intertwined, and like there's crossover and how they work together as well, separate of them working with us. So it's just it's a really cool to see how we can start that and kind of help kind of facilitate that.
Yeah, how do you guys manage? I mean, not only all the producers you're working with, but also like all the different products you have, like all the different livestock. Like that's a lot you guys are doing. So how do you manage all of that?
Yeah, I mean, if you when we meet with our suppliers every year and we run through a presentation, you'll see that we have a slide that like lists all of our employees on it. And the joke is always that like the operations team is always way larger than any other team that we have now. We are very marketing focused, and our marketing team continues to grow. Same with like our finance team and our sales team as well. All those, I mean, with our success, people we've continued to hire and had great success there. But ops continues to be a majority of that, and that's to your point there. Like it requires a lot to get like from start to finish there. So I mean, I'm on the side of acquiring all the protein. So like I am acquiring the raw materials there. If it's like a box of venison trim to go into our like venison ground brick or our venison sausage or whatever it is, there I'm acquiring that. Or if it's bison, taking a whole load of bison off one of these ranches in Montana or North Dakota or wherever and bringing them to a plant, processing them and taking and break them into their different components there. And then from there we have other like couple other great people on our team taking those products and then turning them into our finished goods. That
Hmm.
whether it's bison steaks or bison grinds, they'll send that and then they'll take it from there. So it's a lot of coordination. I mean, these days, I mean, we're running through millions of pounds of protein to make that and keep up with our sales at retail and online. And so there's a great team around us to make this happen. And we can't do it without everybody on the ops team. There's probably 20 people on the ops team making it happen. And so it's obviously a lot to manage, but we're also super excited about the future there. There's no real like cap to like what we can do. I mean, there are still people out there. There are farmers that just are doing their thing out in the middle of nowhere, say Iowa or Texas or something. And they just don't. They're doing it. They're doing a great job. But maybe sometime they learn about us or another like company that they can partner with that'll help them grow their business and help them continue to impact the planet. And so there continues to be people that just hide in the shadows, doing the work behind the scenes that get no credit. And those are the kind of people that we want to continue to find in the United States, but even around the world, because like I said, there's great work and there's people that are improving their land and using animals to graze in this way in every corner of the world.
Yeah, you guys are one of the few companies that I know of that you're doing this regenerative focus, but you're also reaching outside of the country and you're like highlighting producers that are doing it outside the U.S. So what does that look like? Like, are there any extra hoops you guys have got to jump through to make sure it's okay to import here, or like how does that work?
Yeah, there's a lot of it's a large discussion that happens in this space around importing and domestic there. I think the comment at the forefront is that we always want to be like a majority U.S. like protein centric, whether that's like, and that's across the board of combined between beef and bison and all those together. We want to be majority domestic. That's always going to be the case. We want to be supporting American farmers and everything there. And with how much we're doing these days, like in the beginning, maybe you say that's not enough. That's not enough. Like you're not sourcing enough because it's like we're not doing enough. But these days, like I said, we're doing millions of pounds. We're sourcing loads of beef from different people around the country every single week. At the same time, we're able to partner with folks around the world that are also doing great things. And so, yeah, I mean, there's extra steps to get it processed out there and then put on a container and put on a boat. And there's extra things to get it cleared and inspected. And there's all those regulations you got to stick to there. But I think the biggest thing that's around in this conversation is just labeling and making sure that you're honest about what you're doing. And we're very clear on our website and in all our materials that we send out that like we are domestic and international. Like we like to support the worldwide community there. Like there's no hiding it there. And I think that is unique to what you point out there because a lot of companies like to do one or the other. They like to focus on like we're just domestic, we want to just do that, or we're just international and just do that. And so to your point about like how do you manage all of it, it does make it harder to like, okay, we got all this coming domestically. How do we match that up with what's coming over internationally? And that takes more time to process and get on a boat and make it. So it does take a lot of time to make it happen, but it's worth it because of what they're doing. Again, I've been privileged enough to travel to like the random corners of this country, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Texas, Maine, and see what people are doing. And it's just truly, we have a vast like amount of ecoregions and what like cool things that are happening. But then you get to go out to Australia where you're seeing this scale of regenerative agriculture on millions of acres, like at once. Like one ranch is 2 million acres and they're managing it this way. So when you're trying to talk about making global change and pushing regenerative forward, it's just a huge opportunity to talk about like change on acres. And like you can make that like that scale of change here in the United States. In some areas like Montana, we can work with ranches that are 400,000, maybe a million acres. But out there, you can work on it on like 10 million, 15 million acres. And so you can combine that together to try to just rapidly push that movement forward.
That's really awesome. I mean, like when it comes to regenerative ag in the U.S., like if you do regenerative ag in the U.S., you can only do so much because we have limited land. But if you include other countries, you can have a bigger impact. So that's awesome. You guys are kind of making sure that regenerative farmers all across the world are kind of getting the recognition they deserve and being a part of this movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll make it clear that like in the United States, there is so much more room to make change out here just alone. I mean, we could just be a domestic only company and focus on that and we'd have enough work to do and enough of a challenge. We've just chosen to be like our message and time to be spent around to do it for both. But there's a lot to be done to like when you're talking about just maybe converting back from like monocultures in the Midwest and putting cattle back on them to graze and improve that land instead of going about those conventional ag systems. There's so many different things you could be doing just here. And there are cool farmers that are doing that they're taking like our land that was formerly overgrazed and taking it and resting it and bringing it back into some kind of regenerative system, or in the Midwest, taking it out of like a farming system and putting it into grazing. There's 100 different things like that are being done.
Oh yeah, definitely. What do you think about Will Harris from White Oak Pastures and how he's really gone mainstream thanks to like going on the Joe Rogan show like twice? Like it seems like since that he's kind of like I'd put him on the Mount Rushmore right now of the current regenerative farming scene. So like, what's your thought on White Oak Pastures and all that?
Yeah, I mean he's a character. He's when you talk about just like people that have created a presence, like he has a persona, like just the way he talks, he's from the deep South. It's just a accent that you can never get out of your mind. Like it's just, and like his presence and like who he is, like it's just, he's going to make an impact on you. So whether or not he got on Joe Rogan, obviously Joe Rogan is going to help his presence there, but like whether or not he got on there, he's just a person that people like, if you hear him or you see him, like he's going to make an impact on you one way or another. Mm-hmm. And hearing his story and his family story, it's just another one of those great ones where he lives in Bluffton, Georgia, from there, and just like his farm and what like the struggles that it went through over the years and the changes that he decided to make, like from what his father did. And it's always hard in that family scenario to go against like what was the tradition of your farm and break tradition, and like it's going to cause really strife. I mean, like families break up over those kind of things, but they pushed through it, and he pushed into this model where he's got 10 different species out there running. I mean, just bouncing it all. That video that he has, like 100,000 beating hearts, is a really moving video as well,
Mm-hmm.
and what they've done out there. And so, I mean, what he's done out there for just improving the land is truly incredible. And we've worked with him over time, and like we've proud to call him a partner as well. And so, like, he's done that, but not only what he's done for his land, but what he's done for like the community as well. I mean, you can tell it's one of those towns that, like, if he wasn't there and what he was doing, you'd drive through it and you'd be like, oh, there's another like run down town that like has just kind of slowly died over the years. But because of his processing plants and his business, like what he's got going on there, he's like employed over 200 people there.
Mm-hmm.
When Bluffton's like this, like has like 100 people that live there. Period. So he's built housing. He's brought more jobs back to that area, and so just the economic impact of what he's done to an area that's like 3 hours south of Georgia, kind of in the middle of nowhere, is awesome. Like you don't see that enough, and like he's risked a lot and leveraged himself to put himself in that position to build his brand that way. And what his farm's there, and it's unparalleled there. I mean, he obviously, him being the character he is has helped build that, but like him taking a risk and him making those choices, it has clearly paid off. And like I've gotten a chance to visit there a couple times. It's truly a special place. Like, I mean, it's different when you go like versus some other areas, but like if you haven't been there, it's a really cool time to go there and just see what they're doing. And yeah, I mean, it's just unparalleled across the country.
Nice. Yeah, I want to go there one day. He's only like a few hours away from me, but yeah, it's such a good representation of like what a farm can look like when you're intentional with every aspect of it and you try to make everything work harmoniously. And yeah, he talks like an old Southern gangster, and I love how he talks. I love his storytelling. Yeah, it's kind of cool how he's gotten mainstream, and it seems like he's got a lot of people, like a lot of farmers and ranchers, like really thinking about going the regenerative route if they haven't gone that way. Like he just gives some really good examples about like, hey, here's how you can do it. Here's how it's very realistic and it's not going to be that much different than what you're doing. And here's also why you should really be doing it to care for the planet and also to care for the animal.
Yeah, you need like he may be charismatic in a whole kind of like almost social media presence these days,
Mm-hmm.
but he is a farmer at heart, and he built this himself. So farmers relate to other farmers. Like it's hard for someone like me. I mean, I've done the ranching scene a little bit. I came out of college and did an internship on a ranch and was working and did it. Ran a herd for 3 years, so I've done it a little bit. But a lot of times when you're in the position I am, like unless you've had that experience, like other farmers, like they're not gonna really take you seriously. Like they work their asses off out there to do that and to provide for their families and build these and go against the grain. I mean, that like it's hard in these days to be regenerative because just like the like conventional ag and like what it like the draw of it and what like and moving away from it is just so difficult. And like you take on like the ire of your neighbors. Like if you move on, they're laughing at you and everything there. So they're doing truly incredible work, and it helps to have farmers like Will Harris that can reach them and have a message that they'll take to heart.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, Walker, this has been awesome chatting with you, learning about Force of Nature meats. Where can people go if they want to order you guys' products? If they want to try the wild boar chorizo, if they want to try out the bison, where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options. The easiest one would be to start at forceofnaturemeats.com. Or it's just forceofnature.com, I believe. Sorry. It's just forceofnature.com there. And start there. There's a store locator on there. You can go there and put in your zip code and see if there's any stores nearby. If you have a Whole Foods near you, you have a Sprouts near you, you have an HEB near you, like it's almost guaranteed that our product's going to be in there unless they're sold out. Which we're always working to try to correct there. But if you're in an area that's a little bit harder to access, for a store like that, maybe there's a co-op nearby that has our products. But if not, you can ship to any of the 48 kind of contiguous states from our website. So any of those products you can get online. If you order up to $200, you get free shipping there. So great assortment of products online there. But a lot of stores like Sprouts, for instance, they have like our almost entire SKU line out there. So they're a great option if you have one near you.
Yeah, you guys are making it super convenient for consumers. I mean, either go to a grocery store if they have them, find a co-op, or order online, which I think is a really good trifecta to have.
Yeah, we try to reach as many people as possible. You want to give access to everybody, even people in areas that may be called food deserts, and like
Hmm.
you want to have access. Like everybody, like it's one of those things where people all deserve to have access to good food, even if they're in an area that they can't just drive 5 minutes and go to the store. Maybe it takes a little bit more time to ship out there, but if they're willing to go and find it online and do the time to do the research and try the products, it's there for them to try.
Well, that's perfect. Well, Walker, thanks so much, man. I will link everything below in the description as well as the video you mentioned that you guys did. So I will also add that. But we appreciate it, man, and I will keep you posted whenever I cook the burgers and you guys send us. So I'm super excited to try them.
Absolutely, looking forward to hearing the feedback on them.
All right. Well, thanks so much, man.
Thank you for having me, Trevor.